A mother's silent battle. Maria was only 30 when her husband died in a sudden accident on a rainy night. The world seemed to collapse around her, leaving her with 2 small children who depended on her for everything. That evening, while her children slept peacefully, she cried until her eyes were swollen. Deep inside, she knew she had no choice but to become both mother and father. The very next morning, Maria forced herself out of bed and went to the market. She sold the bread she had baked before dawn, her hands still shaking with exhaustion and grief. Every small coin she earned felt like carrying a heavy stone. She whispered softly to herself, "This is not for me. This is for them." Days slowly turned into weeks, and Maria accepted 2 jobs to survive. At night she cleaned empty offices, and in the early mornings she baked bread to sell. Sleep became a stranger she could no longer afford to meet. Her children only saw her gentle smile, not the silent storms hidden in her heart. Bills grew higher each month, and sometimes there was not enough food. Maria always gave her portion to her children, pretending she was already full. Her body weakened, but her spirit refused to break. Sacrifice became not just her choice, but her entire identity. One night little Emma asked softly, "Mama, why don't you rest like other mothers?" Maria kissed her forehead gently and answered, "Because your dreams are my dreams." She turned away quickly to hide her tears, knowing children should never feel the weight of adult pain. One cold winter, Maria fell sick with fever. Her body begged for rest, but she tied a scarf tightly around her head and walked into the freezing air. Each step was heavy and painful, yet she pushed forward with courage. Hunger in her children's eyes gave her more strength than medicine ever could. At night, when silence filled the house, Maria sometimes took her husband's photo from a drawer. She whispered, her voice trembling, "I promised them a future." The photo never answered, but she felt his spirit close, giving her invisible strength to carry on. Emma and Daniel grew older, watching their mother's struggles. Emma studied harder than anyone else in her class, determined to succeed. Daniel worked after school to bring home a few coins. They hated the sight of Maria's tired hands, but they admired her endless courage. One year, Maria saved a little money, but a dishonest man tricked her and stole everything. That evening she sat alone on the floor, shaking with despair. For a moment she thought she could not go on. But when Emma walked in, Maria quickly forced a smile, hiding her broken heart. Each night was filled with suspense. Would there be food on the table tomorrow, or only hunger? Would the landlord finally come to throw them out? Every knock at the door made her chest tighten. Still, every morning she stood tall, refusing to show her fear. When Daniel asked for his school fees, Maria froze. She had no money left, but she could not let his future die. Quietly, she took off her wedding ring and sold it in the market. That night, she touched her empty finger and whispered, "Your education is worth more than my past." Slowly, life began to change. Emma was accepted into university with a scholarship, and Daniel's music started winning small prizes. Maria's body grew weaker, but her heart felt lighter. She finally saw their future shining brighter than she ever dreamed. Still, her health continued to decline. She hid her coughs, her pain, and the dark circles under her eyes. She feared her children would give up their studies if they knew how sick she really was. Alone at night, she trembled in silence but never complained. One evening, Emma returned with her very first paycheck. She placed it gently in her mother's hands, her eyes filled with pride. Maria stared at the money in disbelief, then at her daughter's determined face. For the first time in years, joy replaced sorrow in her heart. Daniel also succeeded, playing music that brought hope and income. Together, the children supported Maria, who finally allowed herself to rest after decades of sacrifice. The suspense of survival that once controlled their lives slowly turned into peace and relief. Maria sat by the window, watching her grown children laugh in the same home once filled with tears. This time, her tears were only of happiness. She whispered softly, "I gave my life, and they gave it back to me in love." From broken pieces she had built something whole.